Greetings to one and all. You're listening to MMJC Updates. In today's edition, we will be discussing about amendments to InVIT regulations, that is Infrastructure Investment Trust Regulations 2014. SEBI, through a amendment notification dated 17th April 2026, has notified certain amendments to these InVIT regulations. We shall be discussing these amendments in detail and shall try to understand the rationale behind such amendments. So, the first amendment relates to the insertion of a proviso in definition of special purpose vehicle, that is SPV. So, in the definition of SPV, a new proviso has been inserted, which says that even if a concession agreement of a SPV through which infrastructure project has been assigned to a SPV, that concession agreement expires or is terminated, even in that situation, such SPV will be treated as an SPV for certain specified period and subject to certain conditions. So, if we refer to the consultation paper, the specified conditions were that the such consideration as an SPV will be available for a specific period of time, and during that time, the InVIT needs to either wind up the SPV or merge it or acquire some other project for that SPV. And the second condition was that during this said period, and certain additional disclosures with respect to these SPV and its financial implications, etc., should be given in the annual report of the InVIT. Now, these additional conditions are not included in the proviso or in the amendment. The proviso simply states that subject to conditions as may be specified by the board. So it is expected that these conditions, as proposed in the consultation paper, would be notified by SEBI through a separate circular, which is still awaited. But till the time the circular is awaited, the question is that if there is any InVIT who has such an SPV whose concession agreement has expired in the financial year 25-26, and it is in the and that InVIT is in the process of preparing its annual report for the FY 25-26. So should it give the should it give those disclosures as required in the consultation paper in this particular annual report itself, or it should wait for the circular and then give those disclosures as prescribed in the circular in the next financial year's annual report? So if we see from the good governance angle, it is this information is sought just for creating giving proper information to the unit holders, and hence as a good governance it is advisable that we should give these extra information in the annual report of 25-26 itself. With respect to what information to be provided, for that we can refer the consultation paper, and the information which was proposed in that paper, we can give that information. So next amendment relates to the amendment of definition of liquid assets. So earlier, the definition of liquid assets included overnight and liquid mutual funds. Now it has been amended, and liquid mutual funds are there's a specification added for a liquid mutual fund. A liquid mutual fund having a specified risk class matrix and specified credit rating can only be termed as liquid mutual fund. Moving further, if we go to the regulation which allows the InVITs to to invest in the units of mutual fund, that also has been amended, and the same criteria that was inserted in the definition, that same criteria is inserted here as well. In this part, the criteria already existed, only the criteria has been now revised. And due to these revised criteria, the effect is that the InVITs will now have multiple options of mutual funds to invest in. As per the consultation paper wherein this amendment was first proposed, now the InVITs will have an option to invest in around 38 mutual fund schemes as compared to 8 or 9 earlier. So that gives the InVITs a choice to make investment. Next amendment relates to investment by privately listed InVITs in under construction projects. So earlier, the privately listed InVITs were not allowed to invest in under construction projects, under construction infrastructure projects. Now, through this amendment, such InVITs are also allowed to, just like private publicly listed InVITs, the privately listed InVITs are also allowed to invest in under construction infrastructure projects. The next amendment relates to the additional powers given to SEBI with respect to specifying the end use of the borrowed funds. So earlier, as per Regulation 20, Sub-Regulation 3, the borrowed funds over and above 49% of total InVIT assets could be used only for specified end uses, which were already mentioned in the regulation. Now, SEBI has been given a power to specify such end uses. So, as per the proposed consultation paper, it was proposed that SEBI would allow these use of these additional funds for major maintenance of infrastructure projects, refinancing of existing debts, etc. So, these purposes which would be allowed are also to be specified by SEBI through a circular, and again the said circular is awaited. Once the circular comes, we will be able to ascertain that for which purposes the SEBI would allow end use of these borrowed funds above the 49% limit. So that is all in this edition of MMJC Updates. Thank you for listening to us and feel free to write to us about your feedback.